Well, I think people worry that dwelling on the bad performance or failure is a weakness, and I don't think it is at all. I think, failure is the best, one of the best things for us, because we learn from that. Yes, you do learn a little bit from winning, but probably less so than failure, for sure. Being confident in yourself, I think, is a big thing, and then less words is almost better. Just keep things simple and basic is quite a sort of a mantra I've always thought about. So especially even at high level sport, don't overcomplicate things, do the basics well and the rest will take care of itself. So nerves are great, you've just got to keep them under control at a certain level so that they don't affect your performance.
On today's episode, a multidisciplinary professional athlete, rowing coach, and a firefighter, Rebecca Rowe. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited about our conversation because I want to pick your mind on so many levels.
Okay.
So to give our audience a little bit of context about you, you've competed in 4 world championships in 3 different sports.
Yeah.
You are a double world champion and a world record holder in surf lifesaving.
Yeah.
Which is something that I had to look up because
it
was a new sport
do.
to me. You came 4th in the 2007 World Rowing Championships, bronze at the 2007 European Rowing Championships, and played in 3 Six Nations tournaments and the 2017 Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
You gained 19 caps for Wales during your rugby career and won 2 Premiership club rugby titles in your club Harlequins.
Mm-hmm.
And you swam for Wales as a teenager and held many junior and senior West records at the time. You also held the British record for a relay channel swim in 2001.
Yeah.
I'm just warming up, basically. So looking at your very impressive athletic and professional career, I can sense that you've always had this affinity for sports.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that start? Where did that come from?
I think having a lot of energy as a child. So I think from day dot, I was non-stop. So I think my poor parents, as soon as they could, they got me involved in just sport and learning to swim as well, because we lived by the sea. So I thought that was important. But just something to wear me out, I think, because I just had all this energy and needed to get rid of it somewhere, I think. So yeah, and I think obviously because of my parents getting me involved in sport, I obviously enjoyed it, and then it was kind of born from there, really. So I've got to thank my parents for, I suppose, pushing me towards sport and also supporting me through it.
So when did you start thinking about it more in a professional way?
Yeah, I suppose I think so. Swimming was my first sport, and I suppose you just go along with, your parents take you to swimming club and you kind of go along with it when you're younger. So I was 9 when I started sort of swimming in a swimming club so properly. And then as the years went by, I saw I had a talent for it and I enjoyed it, and that was my thing. So it probably was, I'd say, around 12 or 13 when I first got into the Welsh swimming team, and I was quite young for the senior team. I think that's probably when I realised that I had a real thing for sort of the more competitive and higher level side of sport, not just something to do or just to participate in. And I had a real sort of drive for that competition and winning and pushing myself as far as I could and things. So I think, yeah, from quite a young age, really, I think I knew sort of that's what I enjoyed doing.
I was going to ask you about the competitiveness, but that must have been there.
Yeah.
So if you had to define your mindset to me, the mindset that has helped you achieve your goals, whether they be professional or in sports or in your life, how would you define it?
I think a big thing is that I'm not afraid of sort of failure and not achieving them. So, and I'm not sure where that comes from, really. I don't know if it's just something that was, my parents were supportive and, and I suppose I because I was involved in sport from quite young, I experienced a lot of failure or not winning and, things like that from an early age. So I think I sort of built up resilience to that. And also that I just was happy to kind of put myself out there, if you see what I mean. So, so I think that it was kind of the underlying thing, really, that's kind of helped me to put myself forward and not worry about, what if I don't achieve, or what if I don't make it, or not if I don't get in that team. And obviously there's always those demons in the back of my mind, but it wasn't something that held me back ever, I think.
And how do you overcome those moments of failure when something goes wrong or you lose or you don't get the podium, how do you console yourself?
Obviously there's, a massive disappointment, because, I also used to put a lot of pressure on myself because I wanted to achieve. And, but I think just looking back at sort of previous experiences and also, I think, as an athlete, you're always looking forward as well. So, which can be a good and a bad thing, I think. So sometimes you're never quite living in the moment. And that is something that I regret now. Now I'm older and I can look back, I think. So I think there's that, something didn't go quite right or you didn't win or whatever. And you kind of, you can dwell on that disappointment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a good thing. But then you need to, I was quite good at kind of, right, I need to sort of park that now and, have a think about why it didn't go right, what happened, how can I change things, how can I improve, what do I need to do, ready for the next time to sort of better myself. And that's kind of how in my mind it's just played out, I think. And it's worked quite well for me over the years.
Very precious. You mentioned it's also good to actually dwell on that. Why is that?
Yeah, I think people worry that dwelling on a bad performance or failure is a weakness, and I don't think it is at all. I think failure is the best, one of the best things for us, because we learn from that. Yes, you do learn a little bit from winning, but probably less so than failure, for sure. So I think it's great to have a little dwell and feel a bit upset and depressed and, wallow in it almost in your self-pity for a small time. But I think you need to then know or have that strength to then come out of that and then move forward and use it as a tool,
as a fuel and
almost. A positive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense, because suppressing any sort of emotions is never a good choice, because you exercise so much energy in trying to suppress something that's there. It's just counterintuitive. Whereas if you actually allow them to happen, you minimize that resistance. And so, yes, momentarily you're taken by these emotions, perhaps, but then if you channel them, as you said, into a fuel and learn from them, and then go forward, then that's a valuable lesson learned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what would you say would be the number one personal trait that people would need to adopt in order to achieve what they want?
Resilience, I would say, definitely is a big one, I think, because and that's from everywhere. You kind of have attacks, I suppose, when you're trying to achieve from yourself. So the pressure that you put on yourself to achieve something, and that stress and the build up, towards whatever that is you're going to achieve. So sort of the resilience to deal with that and the stress and pressure and maybe nerves that you might feel for whatever you're doing. And then obviously there's maybe you might feel pressure from others, friends, family, or work colleagues, that kind of thing as well. So it's just kind of being able to have the resilience to deal with that, either bat it off or kind of just absorb it and not let it affect you, kind of thing. So I think resilience is definitely a big thing.
Is there a way to cultivate that somehow within yourself?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think if I had the perfect recipe for building resilience and cultivating it, I think I'd be very rich by now, because I think it's something that everyone wants to. A lot of people want to build on, doesn't it? I think I was quite lucky because of maybe my sort of just my upbringing and being involved in sport. And I think sport, you win or lose, or you get selected for a team or you don't, and so you do build up a resilience to things over years and years and years, even if you don't realize, especially from a young age. So I think I was quite lucky in that way.
I think you already mentioned in what you said before a couple of kind of keywords there, which is taking action. So continuously just keep going and take action.
That's it.
And never mind the results. Never mind the results. Learn, of course, take note and learn and then pivot, but keep moving. Basically never stop that motion. I think people, when they're young, they obviously don't overthink. Kids don't overthink things. No. They just do.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, oftentimes momentum happens.
Yeah.
But as we get older, we get so much more, the scale tips so much more in favor of the headspace. And we just keep living more in the headspace rather than in the physical realm. And that's when all the troubles start.
Yeah, totally. It's almost as we get older, we overthink everything, every situation, what people are thinking, why are they saying that? You know, you just overthink everything. And and it's really counterintuitive for, you know, as you get older. And I think, and then that holds people back because, you know, they're and worrying about whatever people think. And and obviously as when you're younger, you know, as a child or you don't really have that. It's because you're not bothered about what other people are thinking. Exactly. You just keep moving forward, don't you? Yeah.
And the results come.
Yeah.
So you also have a degree in sports science. Did that help you further advance in your kind of professional athletic demeanors?
Yeah, certainly. I think so. Because I had quite an interest in sports psychology at the time when I was doing my degree. So I think it definitely, it was really interesting to kind of understand, so this is why I sort of was thinking like that, or that's why I acted that way, that kind of thing. And also I suppose it gave me a few tools as well at the time to help cope with, you know, anxiety and pressure, because that's quite a big thing, especially in high level sport. You know, there's a lot of pressure to perform and make the team and things. So it definitely helped me at the time. And also, you know, not just that, the side, sort of the physical side of things, just I find it really interesting how, you know, how the body works and how it, you know, why it performs and how to make it perform better and things like that. Yeah. So it was really interesting, but it was so long ago now. I've forgotten most of it, which is a terrible thing to say.
I was going to ask you, did you find some hacks for your body through those studies?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if I did. I can't really remember now. It was so long ago, and obviously being a student, you enjoy yourself as well at university. So
of course,
yeah,
the student life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think so. Yeah, it was probably a bit of okay, I know that, but not actually putting it into action sometimes was a different thing. Yeah.
And you mentioned also the psychological part, which is massive, as you said, for many athletes. Like I know a few. And the biggest challenge, as they say, is after a while that you're in the game, your body already knows kind of how to move. So in some sports, especially, it's the mental, the psychological pressure that you have. So what sort of tools or tips did you learn for yourself to overcome that psychological aspect?
I think sort of positive self-talk was quite a big one. And kind of also sort of visualizing races and, you know, how am I going to race, what the tactics are for type of thing, you know, visualizing myself finishing at the end, even being on the podium, stuff like that. And sort of the, you know, I definitely would find I was actually got quite good at that. And I definitely find myself kind of, you know, the night before, you know, in bed, kind of before I went to sleep, visualizing the race and how it would, you know, how I'd go through it and the start and how I'd say, for instance, the life saving, how I'd swim. Yeah. And, you know, and the actual time that I was hoping to achieve that I would do. And it was, you know, sometimes it didn't go exactly to my sort of, you know, what I hoped in my head, but it certainly definitely helped. And it used to make me feel so much more prepared. And if I didn't do that sort of the night before or in the morning or before the race, I think I wouldn't feel prepared. So it was definitely a huge thing for me, the visualization, definitely. And I found it quite easy as well. So I think that obviously helped as well, because I think some people find it difficult to do that.
Definitely. But, I've heard that. And I'm so glad that you mentioned this specific thing, because I had another guest on episode 3, and he's a racing car driver, and he was saying that that's an absolutely crucial aspect of the routine. And we were talking about how fascinating it is that, you know, there's a whole group of people, aka athletes, that you know, use this and know this, and it's a standard practice, and it works. Yeah, it worked for you, right?
Oh, massively. Yeah, definitely.
How is that not common knowledge for the rest of us?
Yeah,
right?
That's true, because it can work for everyone in any walk of life. It doesn't have to be sport. You know, you can use it. It's a great tool. You can be used for everything. So yeah, you're right. It should be, you know, more popular, and it should be pushed out there. It's not just a thing for high level sports people. Definitely. Because
the thing is, if you speak to, you know, to normal people in a daily conversation, it's almost looked at as a little bit like, what are you talking about? Like some sort of a pseudo science. Yeah. You're weird. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You know what? You're visualizing yourself like doing your...
Keep dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, almost like, oh, you're dreaming that you might win. Yeah, kind of thing. Yeah, people don't quite get it, I think.
So then I think it's even more important that people that are revered in the public's eye, such as athletes, and have real results to prove for it, actually, shared the stories that, this has been a crucial tool for me. It really has helped me. So I guess at the back of that, do you maybe have some sort of advice for people that want to do that, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, just, you don't have to make it overcomplicate it, basically. Just start sort of basic, I don't know, say, for instance, you might have a big interview the following day or coming up, and just kind of visualize yourself maybe walking into the room. You might not necessarily know who the people are that are interviewing you, but just kind of, it doesn't have to be faces and things, but just maybe how you would, carry yourself even walking into the room, how you'd introduce yourself, maybe just sort of an idea of what you would say, talk about yourself, and you want to get your CV across kind of in an interview, don't you? So that kind of thing. So just, it can be really small things like that. Just, walking into the room, sitting down, how you carry yourself can just make you feel a bit more prepared. And also, things like nerves and anxiety is what people usually experience in, for instance, an interview. So that can really help just to sort of calm that kind of side down and keep your nerves under control, because nerves are great. There's nothing wrong with having nerves. It's your body being prepared. Like, if I wasn't nervous for the races or the events that I did, I definitely knew I wasn't ready and prepared. So nerves are great. You've just got to keep them under control at a certain level so that they don't affect your performance, for instance.
Interesting. So if you're not nervous, means that you're not ready.
Yeah, for me it was. Yeah, definitely. Or I didn't really care that much about the race, for instance. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely that for me.
Yeah, it's again, it's about using it and leveraging it to your advantage rather than being consumed by.
Yeah. So thinking of it as, a tool, and that's what I used to coach teenagers for Rowe, and I used to, before a race, I'd say to them, don't worry if you're nervous, that's great. If you're not nervous, it's just, you're not ready. It's your body preparing for something great. So, don't worry about it. Don't worry that you feel a bit sick, or, you're a bit shaky, or I said, it's fine. Just, just don't panic about it. Like, it's a normal, natural thing. Yeah.
I like that you mentioned that. So as a part of your professional career, you've been a rowing coach, a PE teacher, and you're currently a firefighter.
Yeah.
So in all of that, so firefighting, also surf life-saving, I sense this strong desire to help people, to save lives.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I suppose I think I'm probably just quite a kind of caring person, and I like to help people, and I like to sort of be around people, and I think I just enjoyed that, and I suppose it's come from that. Being a teacher, I really enjoyed sort of seeing the kids develop and just enjoy themselves, and especially coming from a sporting background, just being involved in activity and enjoying it, so that they hopefully continue it through their adult life, just being active and enjoying sport and things. And so I suppose, with being in emergency services, obviously I don't want people to enjoy having the worst day of their lives, but if I can just help them or to feel a little small bit better that day, or help that day slightly, then I've done a good job, really, I think.
We're gonna move into probably my favorite question, and the one that this whole podcast is built around, which is purpose.
Yeah.
So do you know what your purpose is?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a very light one.
yeah, I suppose. My purpose, I think just for me, just to enjoy life and take every day as it comes, really. I think, life is short, definitely. You don't know what's around the corner. And, hopefully make other people happy as well, and help them enjoy their lives too, maybe, But yeah, that's a good question, that big question. Yeah.
It is a big one. It is a big one. And, we don't often think enough about it.
No, definitely not. No.
And, coming from a place where I believe that we have the power to assign meaning to everything that happens to us, aka give meaning to our own lives. So we're very powerful for ourselves, but we don't often use that power for us, for our benefit. So kind of digging deep within and finding really what it is that drives us and motivates us, what our values are and how we connect with others and why we do the things we do, I think is very good practice.
You're right. Yeah. I've never really thought about it myself. What is my, my real purpose? It's not really a thing that I've thought about too much.
It's so interesting to me because I see from a third person's perspective, I see you as such a purpose-driven person.
Yeah.
In everything you do, it, like, for me, the dots connect very clearly, and it's fascinating to hear that you haven't thought about that.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
Well, you've been living it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Nice. So how did you develop the mental resilience that is needed to perform in these high stress environments?
Yeah, I think through sport has helped, and I know sport and firefighting are two quite different things, but they're in a way they're the same because they're a highly stressful environment at the time. It can be very fast and chaotic, and you're not sometimes you're not we are in control, but you're not massively in control. There's other outside factors that are also involved. So yeah, and like I said as well, think you don't know what you might be seeing or going into and things like that. And I suppose being involved in sport, you have control to some point, but you can't control what others are doing, for instance. And it's the same, I suppose, in the fire brigade and in emergency services, you have no control a lot of the time over what others are doing sometimes. So you have to make sure that you are looking after yourself and you've got yourself in check. And, that's what you can control. And I think the big thing is always try and control the controllables. And then, you have to just then deal with whatever else is happening. So
that makes a lot of sense. And that's very valuable because once again, you're saying that what you focus on is a laser focus on what you can control. So you need to define the things that you can actually control and acknowledge for yourself that everything outside of that is not in your control. Yeah. And you let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the next question that I was going to ask is decision making. So I imagine both in firefighting, whilst you were competing, quick, effective decision making is crucial. So do you have any advice in how a person can develop that? Because I know a lot of people are stuck in analysis paralysis. They're stuck in overthinking. They're plagued by doubts. So how do you mute all of that out and trust yourself and make those decisions?
Yeah, I think being confident in yourself, I think is a big thing. And then less words is almost better. So, just keep things simple and basic is quite a sort of a mantra I've always thought about. So especially, even at high level sport, don't overcomplicate things, do the basics well and the rest will take care of itself. And I think it's the same for, firefighting, being in a stressful situation. Hopefully you'll know what the basics are because you've trained or you've practiced or whatever it is, you know what you're doing. So just stick to that. Don't try and suddenly change what you've been trained to do or what you've thought about or how to do something because you're suddenly in a stressful situation. You've just got to stick to what you know and trust that will help you or that will produce the result, etc.
I know specific cases where an athlete, a couple of athletes on the field, just unable to overcome that noise and that pressure, that thinking about what the opponent is going to do. And so obviously the performance suffers. Yeah. So is there maybe an exercise or like some sort of a tool that one can use in that moment to kind of put everything else in the background and just be in that flow state? And as you say, just do what they know and focus on the basics.
I think I'd say there's probably not one thing, and it definitely it's something that needs sort of practicing. And I think just to get into that kind of flow state is almost, you have to be in sort of like almost a bit of tunnel vision, and it's very difficult just to focus on you when you've got, for instance, other competitors around you, next to you in the same race. But I suppose it's just having that confidence in your own ability, and that is built over time, and that's
doing the work.
Yeah,
actually.
Exactly that. Doing the work and being confident that that you've done the work and that you're in, say, the best form of your life, or etc. And you can always fear opponents, and that's a great thing. I think that is a good thing. Overconfidence can be really detrimental. And have respect for your opponents or whoever you're competing against, definitely. But there's no point worrying about what are they going to do, what tactics they might use, or wonder what training they've been doing, or they look they look better than me and things, because it is difficult, because that's quite a natural way to start thinking when you're obviously nervous and anxious about a race and things. But you can't control what they're doing, but you can control what you're doing. And I think that's the thing that you've always got to try and pull yourself back to.
Yourself.
Yeah, exactly that. You've got to try and pull yourself back to yourself and just be confident that what you've done is enough. Sometimes it isn't enough, but, to try and have that confidence that it is, you are the best you at that time, basically.
Yeah. In that specific moment, nothing that you will think about is going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes back to, again, the visualization and the self-talk as well, the positive self-talk about, just about yourself. And if you start to feel your mind wandering or stressing about other factors outside of your control, trying to bring it back, almost back to the center and back to you and what you're doing at that moment, and what's happening in the next, few minutes or whatever it is that you're doing.
Very, very true. Because I was going to ask you, how is it that you cultivate that confidence? But we already discussed these couple of tools that you can do. So once you choose to do the visualization exercise, and once you choose to capture those moments when you feel and hear the negative self-talk, and then, almost, force yourself into shifting it for something more positive, even if it feels fake in the beginning. Yeah, you are training your mind, and you are replacing those images, you are replacing those voices, and over time that accumulates. Yeah, so it will also seep into those moments of the game, those moments into competition, because you will have such a rich stack of those images and those voices that you've overlaid over the negative ones over time. Yeah, it compounds. Yeah, that's it. It literally is just practice, and having all those experiences over time, like you said. They'll layer upon layer and upon layer, and you will have that tool in your box, so to speak, to deal with maybe a situation that comes up that you're struggling with. Yeah, so it's time and experience, which there's no quick fix to that, I think. Which is where resilience comes in, and consistency. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So doing all of these physical challenges, what have you learned about your body and how it works? Yeah, so well, my body is quite injured and broken now. I'm a bit older now. I definitely feel my age getting up in the morning. But I think definitely that I can really push myself, further than I think. Yeah. And that I feel like there's at the moment, I don't think I've ever reached like a real sort of ceiling level kind of thing. I've moved from one sport to the next, and managed to sort of reach the top of these different, quite different sports, some of them as well. And I always surprise myself, I'll go into a sport and I'm literally, the bottom of that, and then kind of continue, I suppose, just my sort of craziness to challenge myself and keep pushing myself and keep getting better and better to reach the top rungs. And my body just follows me, really. I think my mind is the strong thing that obviously you've got to have mentally, be strong to keep pushing yourself and have that motivation. But then my body just keeps going, just keeps following me. Luckily, I've had a lot of injuries and things, but I think again with the resilience and I'm quite strong-minded, I've been able to overcome those and move on to the next thing. But I've learned I can push myself pretty far, and it will take quite a lot, my body. Yeah, I mean, you're quite literally approving that notion that people often say that mind over body. Yeah. And are you familiar with David Goggins? Yes. Yep. So I remember he was saying in his book and his podcast that when we think we're done, we have nothing else left in us. You're literally just 40% in. Yeah. Which is crazy, isn't it? To think, well, there's no way I've got another 60% in me. Like, what is he talking about? But it is true. The mind is such a huge, strong tool. I think that, and a lot, most of us will never really tap into the sort of the full use of our mental sort of ability and capacity to push ourselves, I think. And most of us won't have to, most people won't have to ever maybe delve that deep into sort of their mental strength and capacity, and some will. But yeah, I think
And that's probably where maybe with athletes sort of, you know, you've got the top and then you've got the sort of the top end. And I think probably the difference then, you know, physically everyone's very similar, if not the same. And I think it's then that kind of mental ability, that sort of, you know, 0.5% difference that probably makes the difference between, you know, a multi-gold medalist type thing, Olympian, and maybe not kind of thing. So yeah, I think that mental strength and ability and motivation maybe to push that body that little bit further than the next is probably something that you know, sort of stands people out from others. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so interesting listening, because it's almost, we're saying that mind will always prevail over body. So mind needs to lead the body. But at the same time, mind is intangible and body is tangible. So somehow they work hand in hand. So for example, you need to have that strong mental resilience and to have that confidence. You need to see some sort of real life results, right? Yeah. So that's because I was about to ask, okay, but how do we then develop this incredibly strong mind that, you know, is able to overcome any sort of physical challenges and physical pain and everything else? But to develop that, you have to have the proof, the tangible
you've
proof,
got to see that
right?
it's actually working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is where the body comes in. So it's kind of like a circle. It's kind of a loop.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good place to start for people to you know, to exercise.
Definitely.
to exercise, to do small things, to start with push-ups, to do I don't know, laps, to start running 1K, whatever it is. When you push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and then you achieve that, however small the achievement, maybe it's like one pull-up, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a challenge for you and you've overcome it, then you have a proof.
Yeah.
You just did it, and that builds a little bit on top of your confidence, and that has just built that physical proof of your body doing something has just built your mind up a bit stronger now. So they work very nicely hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice combination.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? And I don't think people sometimes don't realize it or don't think about it like that. But that's literally what it is. Yeah, this great little kind of cycle of
best buddies.
Yeah, really are. Yeah.
So if I asked you to share with me 3 of your very precious life lessons that you've gathered over the years.
Yeah, 3. Oh, I think definitely my biggest one probably, I think like I touched on earlier, was to live in the moment and enjoy sort of the small wins a little bit more. So I think, and this probably goes for a lot of kind of athletes, is that because you have like that long-term goal and you're always striving to be better, so you never quite celebrate sort of the smaller wins or achievements, whatever that is, along the way. And then suddenly, you know, you get to a point where you've had to retire from that sport or whatever it is, and then I know I kind of look back and think, oh, I wish I'd lived in the moment a bit more when, you know, I achieved this or I won that, and just kind of enjoyed it a bit more, and kind of sat back and thought, God, you know what, I've done really well there. This, you know, this is great, and kind of enjoyed that a little bit more, rather than thinking, right, great, I did that, that's done, next day, right, what's next? You know, what am I moving on to? How can I be better? Let's move forward again. And I think definitely that's a big sort of lesson, and something I would definitely tell everyone is just to try and enjoy the small things, because you don't know when, you know, that good run that you're on is going to end. You don't, and so you need to enjoy it while it's happening, basically, I think, because looking back is great, but you know, their memories there and you're not in the moment, and it's never the same. So
it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to achieve at all. It I don't know how it is for you, but you know, for me, it's taken a while for me to get to a place, because this is my mantra now as well, where I say happiness is in the small things and it's in the small moments, and it's accessible at any time. And it's really is just stopping, pausing, and appreciating what is in any given moment. But it takes that awareness, and it takes, I guess, going through that phase and that period of your time where you're just chasing these goals, you're chasing these things, etc., and then one by one you achieve them, or even your goals change and they pivot, and then you realize, well, wait a second, if I'm continuously postponing that satisfaction and that happiness, is there really an end?
Exactly. Am I ever going to achieve it? Because you keep changing the goalpost. That's it. And, you know, and yeah, and like I said, you don't know when, you know, that great thing is ever going to end. So then, you know, you've missed out on.
Live now.
Exactly that. Yeah, definitely live for the moment. I would say, because you don't know what's around the corner, definitely. And I think, you know, as I've got older, and especially probably, you know, with the job that I'm involved in now, you don't know what's, you know, what might happen tomorrow or what's around the corner. So yeah, definitely live for the day in the moment. Definitely.
I like that.
Yeah.
Any other ones that stick out for you?
Oh, I don't think so. You know, I think those are my two kind of main ones, really. I think that I definitely, probably just age is a good thing, isn't it? You can look back then and think, oh yeah, I definitely should have done that when I was, you know, a few years ago. But yeah, definitely those two, I think, for me. And just always keep things simple. I think, like I was saying earlier, you know, don't overcomplicate things in all walks of life. You know, try and keep things simple, and the rest will just follow, kind of thing.
Taking note of that.
Yeah. It's easier said than done, mind. I say that to myself, but yeah, I still get stressed about things. Yeah.
And what about your personal life? I saw a very beautiful photo with you and your girlfriend in the wedding gowns.
Yeah, we got married.
You got married
in July.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Did you have any sort of difficulties doing that in the UK, or I'm not even sure how the
No,
it's
all legal,
fantastic.
absolutely fine. Yeah, like no issues at all. And yeah, I'm very lucky. I've never had any problems, you know, with being a gay woman, and me and Kirsty, you know, we're married, and there's not been any difficulties at all. It's just normal, basically. Yeah, which is, you know, great. You know, we live just a normal life. We just both happen to be women, and no problem at all, really.
I think that's amazing, and that's, I guess, then a tribute to this country for making it happen and making it possible.
Yeah.
I'm from Latvia.
Yeah.
And I have a very dear friend, childhood friend of mine, and she's in a similar situation, but unfortunately they're, you know, unable to get married. They've been wanting to get married for a long time. But yeah, it's just not possible yet in Latvia.
Yeah. Hopefully one day then. Yeah, we are lucky in this country. And, you know, I suppose, there are places where things are going a little bit backwards in the world, which is a little bit, you know, is a bit worrying. But yeah, hopefully that won't happen here. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
And how long have you been together?
6 years almost. Yeah.
I always like to ask, what sort of impact do you think your relationship has had on your career progression, essentially, and your, you know, professional evolution? Yeah.
I think Kirsty's my wife, and she's very, very supportive of me. I think whoever my partner has been, they kind of being an athlete can be quite a selfish way of life sometimes, without even realizing. You know, for instance, I might put training ahead of everything else, and if I don't go training, I can be very grumpy and not the best person to be around. And Kirsty's very good at knowing me as a person.
Hi there, I hope you're enjoying this episode. You can listen to the full audio version for free on your favorite podcast app. And if you are enjoying this video version, I invite you to join my exclusive Patreon community to support the making of the show and to unlock a ton of exclusive content, such as the full video episodes, bloopers, some controversial topics, and more personal questions from the guests, and much more. Link is in the description below.